So hello, my name's John. Welcome to the first episode of what we are going to call, I've had a bit of deliberation about this, Signature Customs. No great leap, my name is John Hancock, and anybody that's ever seen the film Hancock, or indeed from America, or watched The Simpsons, etc., John Hancock is your signature. I've been playing about cars since I was 16. I'm now a lot older than that, and over the past couple of years I've been building various things for myself, gathering stuff in order to build cars that I've always wanted. Over the past couple of years I've been asked to do various things, from a film to podcasts and YouTube episodes and bit of TV work and so on and so forth, and some of it's made it to air, some of it hasn't, and a film's been released, The Outlaw in Me, if you want to go and watch it or want to go and see it, search it out somewhere, and a few podcasts with Tacona and Wheels and Thrills and a few other bits and bobs which might leave you to a bit of an insight into my crazy world. Whenever I've been asked to do it, I've always done it on the basis of it's a bit of prosperity. It's something to show my grandkids. My kids get to see that and come out with me, and we use the cars, etc. My grandkids, on the other hand, which aren't around yet, you never know, we might not have grandkids, but I'm sure there'll come a time when I'm old and decrepit where they turn around and say, "Oh, Grandpa, how come you've got a rubbish car?" And the reason I've always done the other stuff is because actually there's a bit of prosperity there to show them. It wasn't always that case. You used to have this, you used to have that, you used to have the other. And over the last probably 8-9 months, we've had the opportunity to purchase a particular car, which I'm sat on, as well as having a few other cars that I really want to build. And they've become sort of my, if you like, the ones that I want to do and the ones I build and I want to keep, and so on and so forth, until I can't drive them any longer. So I thought, as they're all okay, some of them have been started, but they're not, long ways on. I thought I'd do a little bit of a series of YouTube films, videos, episodes, whatever the kids call them, I don't know, things, where I can just catalogue stuff. So, I'm not pretending I'm a guru at anything. I this is really trial and error. I do work in the car industry. I build cars, I restore cars, have done for the last 15 years professionally. And but I have no formal training. I'm not I've not been to college, university, I've not been on any courses. I'm completely self-taught with everything from mechanics to welding to painting, body prep, everything. I'm completely self-taught. This channel is not sponsored in any way, so this is all my kits that I've managed to amass over the years. I am a bit of a tool tart, which is one up from a wheel whore, I think. So I used to be a wheel whore, and now I'm a bit of a tool tart. So any old tools, prop and fabrication stuff I love. So, you'll see some of that in the episodes, I'm sure. So what I'm going to do, and what I'm going to try and catalogue, is a build of a number of cars, and those cars hopefully won't change. I say hopefully because I have a bit of a tendency to be offered silly money for something, and then basically it could go and I'll buy something else. But at the moment, I'm pretty stuck on these. And one of the reasons why, as will become apparent, is these are filmed out of order. And this first episode, if you like, is actually probably a couple of months into doing this, is because A, I wanted to get used to doing filming while I'm working, which is actually really difficult. And B, I wanted to be quite sure I wanted to do it, because there's nothing worse than watching 2 episodes of a thing thinking, oh, this is quite good, and then it disappears. I'm not saying this is going to be any good, but you don't want to be in that situation, do you? So the cars are as follows. They are many and varied, as is my taste in cars, as I'm sure will become apparent. So I am sat in a Rolls Royce 1934. It is a 2025 model, and as you'll see from one of the camera angles, in fact from both of the camera angles, it does not have a Rolls Royce engine in it. So the engine that I'm sat behind is actually a Fairchild 770 inverted air-cooled V12 supercharged Aero engine. So it was designed in 1931.
which is a bit of a shame because it's not VSCC eligible, which I sort of got a bit of a thing about building a VSCC car. And when I inquired, they said, oh, you could get another engine. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen because I really want to build this car. I love the engine. I love the simplicity of the engineering, but yet the complexity of the materials and so on and so forth. So anyway, so the idea with this car is really quite simple. Run it with this engine. We've got to try and couple a hugely powerful, torquey engine to a Rolls Royce 2025 gearbox using the original Rolls Royce 2025 diff and brakes, etc. Bodywork is going to be very much in the land speed record sort of era, open wheel, and just that era where, you know, to be honest, people got back from the Second World War and did their thing with stuff that was lying about. At the end of the Second World War, there were plenty of big old chassis floating around, and at the end of the Second World War, there were a fair number of aircraft engines floating about. You know, you couldn't give a Spitfire away at the end of the war. They literally threw them in the water at the end of the boats, and so on and so forth. So, you know, there's a lot of if you like, that's almost the equivalent of hot rodding, British hot rodding, if you like, with big saloons turned into little speedsters or specials with big engines, and that whole Edwardian thing. Well, this is a bit late for that, but you know, I actually really like the engine. So the second car, which is in a similar vein, and I'll go through some bits and bobs on this in the future. We'll do a bit of a video of this to coincide with this episode, is a 1932 Ford 5-window coupe. It's one of the early stock cars, jalopy racers. It was driven by a chap called Earl Wagner, who raced out of Knoxville. And it's a genuine 32 Ford, a 5-window. It's steel, it's not repro. It's one of his cars. They were all painted pink. They were all the number 77 or 777 from what I understand, and they were all called the Pink Ladies. His wife used to paint 77 on the doors, and his wife used to paint his name on the roof. My car has all that. I keep looking over there because that's where it is. So we'll do a bit of an introduction on that when I can get to it and be sensible in terms of getting that filmed. The third car, losing track here, is a Porsche 912, which I'm sat next to here. Again, like the 32 and like this one, in really poor condition. I'm going to say the only way I can afford to buy this stuff is if I buy it when it's really at the bottom of the pond and nobody else would buy it. That is the way I have to do business. I haven't got the money to go out and buy, you know, like a perfect 912 or even 911. This is going to be built as an Outlaw. I have turbo wings for it. I have turbo flares for it. I have a 6-cylinder correct year. I have 5-speed box, which it should have, and it's going to be built as an Outlaw, which in my interpretation of the description is a road-going race car. In other words, something that looks like it should be on the track, but actually is a road-going car, and that is true of the 3 of those cars and another one that I'm going to do. So the 4th car is a very unusual car. Most people will never have heard of it. It's a Nikki Spyder, and it's a fiberglass sports car from the 50s, designed to go on top of a Ford Pop chassis, so an old sit-up-and-beg Ford Pop British car. And the body's in terrible condition, and I have managed to find a racing chassis from a company I believe called Halifax, who made a racing chassis base for a Ford Pop, which is crazy because they're a 1-litre engine just under, and they're about as powerful as, they wouldn't pull skin off a custard, as we used to say. But again, it's quite an interesting thing to do. One of the things I want to do with that is build an aluminium body. So although I've got the body in fiberglass, I want to remake that in aluminium, and the body for the Rolls Royce I'm sat in will be aluminium as well. So that's the 4 racy car sort of things, outlaws if you like, based on various different things. One post-English War, one post-American War, one pretty much the most iconic sports car shape there is, and the other a bit of a weirdie. So it came to me by pure luck, as most of these cars do, and a set of circumstances that happened to manifest itself. And I have to say, I really like cars that come to me like that. I don't like looking for cars. I'd never go out, never. It's very rare I'll go out looking for a car. I'm not going to go out and buy say, oh, I'm after a TVR Cerberus and just go out and buy one. Very, very rarely. It's more likely that I bump into somebody and they say, oh, I've got one of those, do you fancy it? And it goes from there. Okay, so there are also two other cars that are involved in my world. One is my beloved Porsche 356, which I've had for years. I built this about 6-7 years ago. It's 100% done by me, and I say that because I wouldn't normally do upholstery. I wouldn't normally get involved in doing interiors because it's not my thing, but I really wanted to do the whole car from start to finish, so I did. And although the interior is not brilliant, it's nobody's ever picked up on it. It's just that I know little bits on it. It's very much an outlaw. If you think of Rod Emery style, that sort of stripped down race car style car, very much in that ilk. I love it to bits. I love driving it. It's not quick. I'm not a fast driver, and I don't like driving fast, but I like the look of race cars, and I suppose that's why I go down the road of outlaws, because I do. So the 356, I'll no doubt do a video on. It's not difficult to find. It's been on various channels, and as I say, it's part of the build for the Outlaw in Me film. The last car that's in my life at the moment, and probably, as I say, I think I've pretty much settled on my cars at the moment, is a Corvette, 1962 Corvette C1. It's a Fuelie. It's a race car. And when I say race car, it's a full FIA historic passport race car. Very, very scary, very loud, very fast. Not very good at slowing down because the brakes are terrible, because with it being FIA, we're not allowed to touch the brakes. So we have to stick with what we were given from factory, but the shoes are sort of 3 inches wide. Very interesting to drive. I use it on the road. It's road registered. I use it on the road. As I say, I'm not a fast driver. I'm not a racing driver. I don't ever want to be. I have no inclination to go out on track or do anything like that, because I think that's just scary. But I would like to put it back on track. And as and when I get time to do it, I will do. So one of the reasons we have so many cars is relatively simple. And it's because I don't have the money to build all these things in one go. So if I was to build this, I'm going to have to buy so many parts for this vehicle, whether it be custom made carbon shafts, whether it's going to be custom made leads, plugs, God knows what else, just silly stuff. Even sheets of aluminium, it all costs lots and lots of money. It's 200 quid a sheet for, sort of 16 gauge aluminium over here now. So having to go out and buy huge amounts of stuff when you don't necessarily have the money to do so means that you end up with a break in the build, and therefore you end up with a break in filming in this particular case, which I don't want to do, because I know the people that I follow on YouTube, I like to see their films coming out every day, or I keep recording episodes every week. So the plan is to do that. So as and when I run out of money on a particular build, I've got other cars that I've actually got a lot of parts for, and I can get on with those. And then as and when I run out of money, or indeed, hit a bit of a brick wall with them, which you do sometimes, as any car guys will know, or girls, you do tend to hit a brick wall once in a while, and you get fed up looking at the same thing and trying to discuss the same bit and trying to build the same bit and do whatever. You do get a bit fed up. So it allows me to play about with those. I'm sure the kids these days would call it ADHD. They wouldn't call it ADHD, they'd call it ADHD. I do find it difficult to concentrate. So I tend to work on the basis of doing an hour on one thing, an hour on another, an hour on an hour, and an hour on another. So I'll mix in customers' work along with doing some of my stuff, along with tidying up, along with doing whatever. So the aim is to be able to do something every week and produce some sort of video every week. It won't always be on the same thing. So we're not going to be working on the Rolls flat out until it's finished, because I know that I'm going to run out of money at some point, or indeed run out of enjoyment of that particular bit. I'm reliant on a couple of people to help me out in terms of the engine and oil and all that sort of stuff, in terms of how it all gets around, because obviously it's upside down, and therefore the oil goes in the wrong places. I'm reliant on help. I'm reliant on information, people responding to emails, and making sure I'm happy with things. So there will be situations where I'm doing lots of work on the Porsche, I'm doing lots of work on this, and lots of work on the 32, and maybe playing about with the Nikki Spyder. So those episodes will come, and obviously as we get more and more episodes, we can put them into compartments as to where and what they are, which hopefully will make it an easier watch, and you can see progress. As I've already said, these are massively out of sequence at the moment, so this is probably, I've done hours of footage already, which no doubt when it's edited down will come down to about 5 minutes. But I've done a lot of footage already. I've bought some additional cameras, I've bought some additional lighting, I've done a few other bits and bobs, and hopefully try and get it to look as good as I can. Some of the early stuff is going to be really poor in terms of lighting, and is going to be really poor in terms of camera, because it is just literally me holding a phone. So if you'll excuse that, and as with everybody, please leave some comments. I'm not pretending to know everything. I'm not pretending that I'm an expert in any way, shape or form on this stuff. I'm merely enjoying myself playing about with cars. My hobby is cars. My business is cars. My spare time is going to car meets and so on and so forth. So, there'll be a bit of that thrown in as well when we go to car events. But in the meantime, we're going to try and show you into my world, if you like. Yeah, despite the sort of slightly mundane voice and the weird old fella, hopefully we'll build some really nice kit, and you can follow along and see what we do and how we do it. Try and make it as simple as possible. I don't tend to, do things in an elaborate, let's go out and spend loads of money way. I tend to do it in the most simple way, because I get more enjoyment out of doing it that way, and I feel a bit more of a reward at the end of it. So hopefully you'll see that and it will come across. So Signature Customs, my name's John, as I say, John Hancock, and hopefully you'll join us on this little journey. And hopefully I haven't just waffled on for the last 10-15 minutes and I forgot to press record or something like that. So thanks a lot, and enjoy the introduction to the cars, which should follow fairly soon. So this is the Rolls Royce. It's the day we're picking it up. Everything's covered up and in boxes and all the rest of it. I've waited for months and months and months to be able to pay for it and also to pick it up. So this was sort of moment of truth, and piled in the back of the trailer. Really quite excited at this point, although this is months later, so my voice has changed slightly. The engine is a V12, as you can see there. Lots of work to do, lots of work already done on the engine, but lots of work to do. Everything about it's really over-engineered, as you'd expect from a Rolls Royce perhaps, and I particularly like the rear diff with its RR badge. So got it out of the trailer into the workshop, ready to start work, and videos will follow fairly quickly on this. So I mentioned my 356. This is my 1963 Porsche 356 SC. It's a numbers matching car. Been modified by myself. As I say, I've done everything on this myself, from design, bodywork, paint, metalwork, interior, suspension, everything. Really quite proud of this car. Still, I built it about 8 years ago, and it still does, it still looks really, really pretty. Actually won best air cooled at the Porsche Club meet a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, just a beautiful car, and we'll see more about this in the coming weeks. The 912, or hither known as the 9126. So it's a 1969 long wheelbase, first year of the long wheelbase. I'm weird, I happen to prefer the long wheelbase to the short wheelbase. There's not a lot of difference, but I do happen to prefer it. This was purchased many moons ago from outside a very well-known Porsche guy's house or workshop, and it had been sat there for probably 15 years. He was very reluctant to sell it, but fortunately he did. It was built as a sort of updated car, so almost like an SC, and it had sat with water in it, floors, etc., for many, many years. So it's a bit of a strange anomaly, whereas a lot of the inner wings and stuff are actually really good. However, the inside of the car is non-existent. So that's a new
panel there that's just tacked into place. Well, not tacked, it's just screwed into place at the moment. So it needs complete new front end, complete new boxes for the battery boxes on the side. New front. I think this was changed to a later one because it was built as a later car. But all up in here is actually not too bad. I mean, it's not good, but it's not too bad. I've obviously had this on a rotisserie, and I've started doing some work on it, mainly just cleaning back to see what I've got, and I've neglected it a little while in recent times because I've had other things to do. As you'll see, the interior at the back's all really good. I've cleaned all this up and it's not too bad. It was originally modified in the States, you know, sort of 30, 40 years ago. And I'm just going to continue with that. I have an original 1969 six-cylinder, which was just fortuitous to find that, really. Left-hand drive, as you can see, 5-dial car. I have started putting the longitudinals in there. I've only really just tacked those in at the moment. I haven't got any further. I have got more, and I've got the floors and so on and so forth. But as you can see, there are no floors, and yeah, pretty awful. This really continues with the theme that unless I buy a car like this, I cannot afford to buy. And again, this was picked up for an absolute song. No real expenditure, cheaper than a Beetle. Had a good deal with the engine as well. So really, really pleased with how this one sort of turned out in terms of money. But it's going to be a big build. But as I say, if I went to go and buy one now, I just couldn't afford it. So again, when it says on my little thing, automotive alchemy, you know, this is what I do. This is what I try and do, is turn this sort of thing into decent cars. You know, this is absolutely rotten. But it's a project, and it's a car I've always wanted. You know, it's, as I said in my bit before, it's possibly the most iconic sports car shape there is. I don't think there's really anything that comes close to a 911 or that early 911 body shape. I appreciate it's a 912, even here it'll have a 6, and it's always going to say 912 on the paperwork. But I'm building it for me. The plans with this are an outlaw, so a bit like the 356, where built as a sort of road-going race car. I am going to put turbo arches on it, front arches. I've got genuine turbo wings, which I picked up very cheap. There's a real theme going on here with really cheap, isn't there? I'll convert those to early body style. I've got a set of turbo rear arches. It will have a ducktail on it. It will have quite a custom interior. I've got some really nice wheels for it, some Eppelson split rims, which are Japanese, which I've never seen before, certainly not in 5-stud. And I'm really looking forward to getting those on it. Really looking forward to building this car, along with the 32, you know, something I've dreamed of owning for years and years and years. So you'll have to excuse this video because I'm really stuck for space at the moment, but I just want to get this original first video out. So just bear with me a little bit on this one. So this is a Nikki Spyder body. It was a fiberglass body built to fit on a Ford Pop 1950s, little sit up and beg English car, tiny thing, 900 and something cc. Really sort of, you know, the car for the masses in the 50s in the UK, or Ford's car for the masses in the UK. And this was a little race car built to go on the top, or a little kit car almost built to go on the top in the 50s. Lovely lines. You can't really see it at the moment because it's such a bad set of pictures because I have no room. But it's lovely lines. Wheels sit up in the arches and so on. It's really quite a thing. So the whole idea of this is to basically put it on the chassis. I have managed to find a chassis which was sold to me by a very good friend of mine, Neil, and it drops straight under more or less. There's a few little internal bits because it's a race chassis built by a company called Halifax, I think. and we'll do some detail on that in the future. But yeah, there's not much to show on this at the moment, and as and when I start doing some serious work on it, you'll start getting the idea. So I'm going to leave that one there because there isn't really much to show. But nevertheless, it's going to form part of the channel, so I thought I'd do a quick introduction on this first video. So this is a little intro video on my 32 Ford. It's an old stock car, jalopy racer, what became NASCAR. It was driven by Earl Wagner. You can just about see Earl in the top there. In fact, you can see it very clearly on camera, which is great. His cars were all pink. They were all known as the Pink Ladies, from what I can understand, and they all had the number 77 or number 777. I have the original doors with the original paint and the 77 on them. Apparently his wife used to paint that for him. It's an amazing survivor, considering it's an ex-stock car. I mean, they were pretty abusive. If you ever watch any footage online, do a bit of jalopy racing, Google on YouTube, and it's quite incredible. The chap I bought it from had amassed loads and loads of parts, so I've got lots of original steel. So I've actually got 2 or 3 roofs. I've got another couple of sets of doors. I've got the rear wind-up window. Would have originally had a dicky seat, which it's going to have because I'm going to build this as a hot rod rather than a race car. A very traditional 50s hot rod, so using all the period correct bits. Hopefully, well, it will have a flathead, hopefully a 51. I've managed to source an original cross member for the front, for the back and for the middle. I've then got a Model A cross member at the front and a Model A brake part, which I've made into a spreader bar, which I've blatantly copied from Bennett's Customs down in Australia. So they do a couple of really good videos. I mean, they've been really inspiring, it has to be said. Got Super Bell front axle, which I'll age to make it look older. This is the only way I can afford to buy this stuff. So I'm not going to get into numbers because I'm not, but it's not, you know, this was not expensive for a steel 32. And when I say it wasn't expensive for a steel 32, it wasn't expensive for a, you know, Mark II Mini. It was really cheap. So I've done really, really well with this. I have done some chassis work, so all that's been aligned. I built a table and did all the alignment on the chassis. And I've made a single A pillar out of 2 and welded these together. I've got additional bits to go into the top of the cowling. I've got lots and lots of steel with this, which is nearly all original 32. It might not be original to car, but it's original 32. A very traditional hot rod build is the plan. I'm taking my time. I'm only ever going to get to do one of these once. So I want to get it right. So that's the 32. Well, the last of my own personal cars that are in the garage is the Corvette. So this is a 1962 Corvette C1. It was built specifically as a race car, and I've owned it for a couple of years. It runs a 327 Fuelie. It's pretty much stock as they were back in the day when Le Mans raced. This was built to go to Le Mans. And they have to be pretty much as they are from factory then. There were no prototypes and all that sort of stuff. So it is pretty standard, to say the least. It's pretty hairy. I fell in love with it a couple of years ago, and I sold a car to make it happen. I've been working through it slowly to try and get it to be a race car again, because it hasn't raced for a few years. So it dramatically needs to clean, especially inside. So I fitted a new tilt seat. I've remounted a lot of stuff so I can get the seat in, so it would suit a slightly taller driver. The roll cage needs redoing, as does the fire extinguisher. Removable steering wheel, as you can see. In the back end, it was running its ordinary fuel tank, which was in the boot. The ordinary fuel tank lives underneath there, and it was very small. And because we'd ideally like to take this back to Le Mans, which is an hour race, this does drink fuel. So I decided to fit This is a lot easier two-handed, sorry. So we fitted an ATL tank. So that's a 120 litre ATL tank with a lift pump, and then that goes to swirl pot, and then that goes to another pump. So it's quite a big tank. I had to do quite a lot of adjustment there and build some fiberglass bits and so on, which, you know, still aren't finished, but they're there. At the front end, just maybe, the bonnet might open a little bit easier than the boot. So that's, yeah, 327 fuelie. Needs a bit of timing doing. Hasn't run for a while. We took it to Castle Combe last June, and the clutch pedal got stuck on it halfway around, and as a result, it decided to do some silly stuff. So I need to look at that. It's one of the reasons I've pulled it out this morning. I have given it a wipe over, but it does need an amazing clean. And yeah, it's bonkers. Yeah, this is loud, to say the least.
So there we go, first video. If you've enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot for watching.